everybody. This is Brad from TrueFire. It's another broadcast of TrueFire Live. Today, we're excited to have Robbie Calvo back in the house. He's been here so many times, we should have his name on the studio chair, for goodness sakes. For those of you who don't know Robbie, he's a Nashville session player, recording artist, music director. He's done tons of recording projects for the BBC, ITV, PBS, ABC networks, dozens of TV show themes, soundtracks, and we've collaborated on 20 TrueFire courses, all of them top ranked. We've been working together for many years. He's a tremendous fan and student base here at TrueFire. I guess one of his signature courses, an all-time top student ranked course, and of course I love myself and still reference all the time, is Sweet Notes. He's here filming 2 more courses, Write Your First Song and Chord, Moves and Grooves. And we're kind of entering a new category. On top of being a great guitarist and a great educator of guitar, Robbie's also, pretty spectacular songwriter. And we'll talk more about that over the course of the next hour or so. Robbie, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thanks
Good.
for having me again.
Yeah, we've got quite an agenda for you here over these 2 days, huh?
I think you surprised me a little bit with a few of them, but it's all
I
good.
know. He walked in this morning a little groggy from the flight. Well, you lived in Nashville for many years. You might notice he talks a little bit funny. He's got that... What is that, a Portuguese accent?
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, my surname is Spanish and it means no hair. It
Is
means
that
bald.
right?
Yeah, Calvo.
Well, a very inappropriate surname then in your case.
Yeah.
So Robbie got in last night. He lives in Hawaii now, so it's quite a long trip. Got in, you did a presentation in Tampa.
Yeah.
We got a few hours worth of sleep and came in here this morning and we laid this crazy agenda on him. And so we're doing 2 courses,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Write Your First Song. What's that all about?
Well, I think the idea here is some people don't know where to start with that. It could be, I've got these progressions, but I don't seem to be able to tie another progression to it. How do I join them together? How do I make further progression to make a song, right? And to me, it's been that thing that obviously the legacy of work that I did in Nashville, I got to learn from a great number of people. I was already writing songs before that, but there's a certain craft to writing a song that you learn from being in Nashville and stuff like that. So for me, it was one of those things, how do I then impart this wisdom to someone else, but break it down into its just entirety, but make it super simple for the beginner, intermediate or advanced. You may be a great player, but never written a song. So we take you back to the basics, I think, and then you go, okay, you develop ideas from there. And I always say to guys, songwriting is different from instrumental writing. Songwriting can be simple. You could take 2 chords and write a whole song. We've all heard 2 3-chord songs. So for me, you've got to remember that there are multiple elements to a song. You've got rhythm and groove, and you've got the harmonic structure, the chords. You've then got to write a compelling melody, hooks, great lyrical content. If you don't have all of those elements, you don't have a great song. Every element of a great song is great, right? And one of the terms that I learned to hear most of the time in Nashville is good songs are written, great songs are rewritten. You keep tightening them up, you keep making them better, and you lay them to rest when you believe you have the best version of it. And I still rewrite my songs. You know, I just went into the studio and recorded 5 of my songs. Some of them I wrote 10 years ago. They're great songs. I just want new iterations of them. And so I'm trying to inspire people through this new course. You can keep it simple. You can write a song in one key, but look at all the elements, you know, and obviously we'll talk more about those elements. But the whole course keeps it very simple, but from start to end, you'll see the process of figuring out what an intro could be. I'll give you options, how you then transition into the verse, work towards the chorus, the hooks, the bridge, and all those things. And at the end of the course, of course, you hear me do the song that we wrote in the course.
So, you know, as we've been discussing this project and plotting out the blueprint, you know, it was interesting, you know, kind of playing off something you just said about how guitarists tend to want to, let's call it, not, you know, complicate things, you know, play lots of notes, play lots of chords, play lots of extensions. And the craft of songwriting, you know, on the surface looks really simple, but it's very sophisticated. Like the hard part is all behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
But the song itself could be, right? 3 chords in the truth, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's talk about, you know, can anyone write a song?
Anyone can write a song. Obviously, there are pure lyricists that write songs, but they may not be great on the guitar, so they collaborate with someone that is. And I always say to guys, if you have a weakness, find someone that has a strength. Collaboration's good. Ideas are good. And but anyone can write a song, anyone can sing, anyone can play the guitar. You have to remember there's effort involved, right? People go, you make it look so easy. And I go, yeah, you know, 30 years of hard work
Right.
makes it look easy.
Exactly.
And that's the key. You have to know that you're in for a lifetime of input and you're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, anyone can write a song. You start simple and you just develop your skills.
And it's not uncommon, right? You know, I see it all the time in Nashville when we work up there. You could have somebody writing lyrics. They don't sing or play guitar.
Right.
Then you have somebody, you know, focused on the harmony. They're playing keyboards or they're playing guitar, but they don't sing or write lyrics. And then they bring in a third person who can sing like, you know, like a bird, and boom, you have a great song, right?
Absolutely.
So, how, you know, is there a right way to start to write a song? Do you start with the lyrics?
Here's how it's done in Nashville, and I think this is a great way of me putting across getting people started. A lot of the time, a song in Nashville starts with a hook, the title of a song. And most guys go into a writing session with a book full of titles and ideas. It could be a headline from the paper. And you can get ideas for songs anywhere. It could be a magazine ad. It could be you're in the supermarket and you see the ad campaign for baked beans, for example. You know, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's what you do with the idea from there. So you can start with the song title, and then what you do is you write towards the title. You fill in the gaps. And if you've got the hook, the chorus, and the title, if you write the chorus, it often makes the verses easier because you have something to write to. You support the hook. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And obviously in Nashville, because it's a wordsmith town and country songs are about real life and living, they say all the time, make your songs relatable, conversational, and something that I can understand immediately. Paint me pictures, you know, say it differently. Don't say the same things all the time. You can find different ways of saying the same thing. And that's where the craft and the clever, you know, the songcraft comes from. You develop it, and you don't just throw away a line. Every line, every syllable, every aspect of a song is important if you want to be great at it. Right? They're all strong elements. So, but you can start with a groove. Sometimes that's very inspiring. You could start
I
with
mean, even before the lyrics written.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. People do it all the time, especially in pop music, because it's so groove based. Why not start there? Why try and add a groove to something else? You start there and then you develop the idea.
And you were saying before, and in the course, of course, that the rhythm, the groove, is a very, very important part, element of the song, right? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, absolutely. So even without a groove, playing to a groove, let's say, for example, as I played in this idea, right? Now, to me, that feels appropriate because it allows the chords to breathe. And actually, what I was reminding people at my clinic workshop yesterday was that music should make you feel something. Now, if you're losing the feel of it with the groove because the tempo's too fast or it's the wrong feel and groove, you're throwing it away. So every aspect is good. So that feels appropriate to me. But then let's say I do this. It's got a totally different feel. It's more up tempo. It's and you would sing differently to that. Your melodies would change. There's a million ways of and that's kind of using the same chord thing, but you get the idea, and that will then, it sows seeds and enhances or gives you ideas. And I always say to guys, listen to the notes that are in the chords. They suggest melodies, right? The sweet notes thing. Melodies should resolve and be sweet notes. They should resolve. And a lot of those notes that your melodies will be in the chords. So that's a double-edged sword too. So let's say, for example, on a C chord, 1, 3, 5. There's my right, 1, 3, 5. There's my melody notes or my sweet notes. Now, if I add the na 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 na, that suggested something to me immediately. So na 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 na. Now, what about this? Na na na. Right? So this chord progression is suggesting a melody. And I pick up on that stuff because I'm listening for it. So I would say to guys, start listening deeper into the chord tones of your chords, knowing that part of the reason I did chord moves was I'm giving you melodies within the chord moves that then can give you ideas for your songs.
Yeah, again, another kind of parallel between the guitar player and the songwriter, which I thought was one of the great segments of this course that we shot here, is, in the sweet notes guitar world, you're talking about, play all your notes, do all your fancy stuff. Just make sure you resolve on a sweet note. Absolutely. Here in this world, the sweet notes are where the melody lives mostly. Not that you can't go out and play another note. Also, how much fewer notes you play with a melody, right?
Absolutely.
Versus guitarists that love to. So in a way, any guitarist, really, if you know how to play chords, your melody notes are right there, right?
Absolutely. And here's the other thing, that most guitar players that even come into TrueFire or any professional guitar player will tell you 98% of the time you're playing rhythm. So have your chord moves and your chops and all that stuff down and your great voicings and everything else, because you're going to be a much more valuable player. And when you're a songwriter, you're going to need to strip it back, because a vocalist cannot sing 16th notes at 120. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I say to guys, if you're an instrumentalist and you're writing these amazing melodies on the guitar, understand that you're going to need to strip that back for a singer, because you've got to remember that the words have to feel right and they have to sing right, and the phrasing is just as important, if not more important, than the melody notes, right? If it's not phrased right, you don't feel it right. So it's about, for me, it works really well for me because, as you know, I'm not a flash guitar player. I'm a melodic guitar player. So all of it works for me. I can probably sing the melodies I play as a lead guitar player. And I think that's key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the concept of kind of rhythm and groove. So you gave us an example.
Yeah.
You played the same chords, kind of the same moves, just with a different kind of groove. And the point you were making is it suggests a completely different flavor of, for the lyrics, one might be softer, one might. So, in fact, what's that track you were working? Can we roll that track and have you do that kind of that intro lesson that we shot for the course?
Absolutely.
Do you know which one that is, Tommy?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the song thing.
Tell us what that suggests to you as a songwriter, that groove.
I think for me, in this day and age of songwriting and music in general, we're fighting that battle of staying relevant if you're a country musician with the younger audience that loves hip hop and everything else, right? So you have to think in terms of relevance, because it's great if you write great songs but no one wants it because it's in the wrong genre or style or feel or anything else. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And what you've probably seen in country and rock and everything else, they've moved into a little bit of that, breakbeat, hip hop, those kind of grooves. Does that make sense? It's taken itself out of like a four on the floor and snare like you would hear in country and before, and you add in some modern elements. So for me, it was like the song that I work on in the course has a very country lyric, if that makes sense. I wanted to put that across because great lyrics should be something that you're concerned about. Melodically, it was a bit slower and the groove would have felt slower, and I didn't want it to feel boring. Also, I wanted it to feel relevant in this day and age. So this groove, to me, has a modern feel to it, whereas perhaps the melody and the lyrical content aren't so much. So I think you can combine new and old together and create your own thing. So the groove for this, for me, was it kept the tempo moving forward without it feeling like the song was dragging. And that's going to be very important. It's also going to give you placement and pocket for where your lyrics and your vocals sit. I'll give you an example too. When I'm playing live, there's been a couple of times where I'm just playing acoustic guitar and vocals. Now, it doesn't matter what the tempo of the song is without a groove, because everyone hears it as a ballad. I've seen it at gigs, and it's like, this, and you're kind of sleepy. But you put a groove to it. It could just be 80 BPM, right? Well, I'll give you an example of that. So if I do this. Okay, so that's one of the songs I do in my set. when you put a groove to that and it's got those kind of rhythms going with it, you feel the tempo, you then want to go and dance, right? It moves you in a different way. So to me, tempo, groove, and everything else can bring you into a different genre of music. It can make your music cross over into genres, so more relevant to more people, which we all want, don't we? You know, the more records or the more downloads or streams that you can get, the better. And I spend a little bit of time in the course. What we do is I explore 3 different types of feel with the same musical context, and I go, does that feel right to you? To me, it doesn't, right? And then I change the tempos. We fluctuate the tempos. Finding a tempo that's right, producers and musicians will take a fair bit of time to find just the tempo. And that may even be half of a beat difference, not a full beat.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because we notice that here in the studio all of the time when, you know, putting a track together for, you know, say a backing track, and it might be at whatever, you know, 128, and they, you know, could you set it at 126, you know? And at first blush, I remember, Tommy, we'd go, you know, is there really a difference? And then over the course of time, we realized, man, there really is a difference. Like, you don't have to go from whatever, 120 down to 80. You just drop it a couple of points. It's interesting that you're saying that here.
Probably less important with instrumental music, but when you put a vocal and a lyric into the mix, you've got to look for that pocket where the vocal doesn't feel rushed, where you can hear it. Because if I was singing something fast, you wouldn't get the essence of the content. So for me, and we hear it as we work through the course, is that I'll sing the verse or the chorus or something, and we'll change those things, and you'll go, yeah, no, that's not working. That's pushing the lyric too hard. And it's not comfortable for the singer. I don't know if any of you guys have played it. You know, obviously a lot of people play in bands out there, and the drummer counts it off wrong. It's awful. It's uncomfortable.
Right.
So finding that, not only comfort for the player, the singer, and everything else, but the audience, the delivery of your song has to be is key to it being successful. I think.
Great point.
Thank you.
You know, we have a live chat happening. You can watch this on TrueFire, but you can also watch it on YouTube, where there is a live chat. So we've got questions coming in.
Perfect.
Do you mind if I fire a couple of those off to you?
Love it. Yeah.
Is songwriting storytelling? Is one question.
Yes, it is, and it can be a story. It's, if you think of a song as being a short story, and to me it should make sense. Obviously, we know there's songs out there that are just feel groove based with maybe, you know, a couple of hooks in them. To me, and especially in Nashville, it's a story, and you take the listener from the beginning of your story to a conclusion. Your verses usually are setting you up to understand what the chorus and the hook is all about. I try and make that as visual as possible. And yes, if you could think of it as a 3-minute, 4-minute movie, you'd be on a good path.
So, you know, they talk about like plays and movies, you know, it's act 1, act 2, act 3. Each act has, you know, act 1 establishes the premise. Act 2 kind of develops the character, sets up the, you know, the drama. And then act 3 resolves, you know, the story. How would you break out a song in a similar, you know, like the role of the verse, the role of the chorus, the hook, you know, a bridge? How?
Yeah.
I know I'm throwing this at you kind of.
Well, they're all so different, and we know there's been millions of songs written. So, I mean, this is a sweeping generalization. And of course, in the course, we write a song. We don't write 20 songs.
Right.
And we have to do it that way. But generally speaking, if I'm writing to the chorus hook, my verse needs to set up the scene of what is going on to get me there. For example, in the song that I write in this course, there's a guy at home and his wife or partner's things are still around the house, and it's all very present and very recent. And I set that scene. These are things that he would see around the house. And the last line he says, "It's funny, it's like you never left." Because it's so recent, and you get this visual of it. Now, I always say the second verse should then develop from the first verse, and they should flow together. My second verse, we talk about him and what's going on. He's lost 7 pounds without even trying. It's only 10 a.m. and there's bourbon on his breath. He's talking to himself, not making any sense. He and the house are both a mess. So we hear about her and her things, and she's gone, and what's happened to him since that happened. And that's the second verse. You're showing pictures and vignettes that you can relate to, right? Actually, I've played the song to someone, one of my friends, and he said, "What's wrong with having bourbon on your breath at 10 a.m.?" And I said, well, but in between that, you've got the chorus, which then ties those things. But each of those verses needs to write to the chorus to make that make sense. But the verses should also flow lyrically too, or make sense lyrically to me. The bridge section, to me, in Nashville, they call it the nut. Now,
The nut?
the nut, yeah.
N-U-T, the nut?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to me, that's where you reiterate the message, or, for example, in my song, we've given you the information, we know what's happening in the song, but is there an element of hope? This guy is going through this thing, he misses her, he wants her back, but instead of me signing off and saying, it's done, he commits suicide in the bath.
Right.
In the bridge, that's my opportunity for him to say, don't you think it's time to put our differences aside, right?
So the bridge is kind of that transformative moment.
It could be the hope section where he's going, let's talk about this, let's make it work,
Yeah.
da da da. Or it could be a reiteration of the hook, depending on the kind of song. In this one, for me, it was like, you want to give them an element of hope. We don't say that they do get back together, but there's that little thing, right? And we've all gone through that, right? We've all had relationships where you go, yeah, I messed up. And if I could do it all over again, you gave me another chance. That. And they're so relatable because we've all been through it. The thing that's really interesting about this song is this was a hook that my friend had. My friend, Steve Hefker, he and I wrote a bunch of great songs together, but he is like the hookmeister. He would go, what do you think about this, right? So I'll give you one of his funny song hooks, because I think you guys will get a kick out of it. So one of his fun song titles is, "I'll get over you when you get out from under her." Right? And that's such a funny country title, right? But he's that kind of guy. Anyway, I don't want to give away the hook, but the hook is so clever. You have to be clever writing to it to not waste it.
And you're saying the hook for the song
is the title of the song.
Okay.
And
well, we're going to get that out of you before we're done, okay? I guarantee you can't leave us hanging.
No, right.
But what you're saying about kind of the bridge, in a lot of ways, that is like the movie endings that sort of don't actually tell you what's going to happen, but leave you hanging a little bit, but headed in a particular direction. Like there's hope, there's no hope, there's, lets you carry the story further. So in answer to the question, is songwriting storytelling? That would be a definite yes, right?
Absolutely, and especially in certain genres. I think particularly in country music, because it's very people, family, it's very relatable. Not so much in rock and roll or pop, but that's a generalization. I think you could say there are very story-centric songs in pop. Some not so. They're just grooves and fun things, right? Right. So I think you have to look at it from that point of view. But if you want to be a songwriter in the true sense of it, I mean, even if you were to say, okay, you've got Mac McAnally in country that's writing these incredible songs. And then you've got Lady Gaga that's still writing incredible songs. You know, I love her music because I love the melodies and I love the grooves and everything else. But she tells a story in a different way.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've all got a voice and we should use it. So whether you're an instrumentalist, songwriter, write in your own style, but know that if you want to have success, you might have to hone it for success.
And find your place in the whole craft, or find your voice as a songwriter, right?
Absolutely.
Another question we have is, and you touch on this in the course, the Nashville number system. Just quickly, because we've got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have to finish your shoot too. Okay.
No
and
pressure.
And feed you at some point. Okay. Nashville number system and how that relates to songwriting.
Yeah. Okay, super quick then. Let's say, for example, you're writing a song, you understand the harmonized major scale. There are 7 chords in the major scale, right?
And you explain that here.
I explain that.
You touch on it, right?
Yeah, we don't go too much theory because we don't want to scare people that go,
no,
well,
but we'll love how you handle that because you give them you cut right to the chase and you give them the toolbox, right?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a quick overview then. So you've got 7 chords in the key of C, right? You've got your C chords, your 1, right? And that will always be, your 1 chord is going to be major. D minus 2, E minus 3, F4, G5, A minus 6, you've got B diminished, which is 7. They're your 7 chords of the major scale. I'm in the key of C, but I've got a number now that denotes what's major and minor. 1, 4, and 5 are majors, 2, 3, and 6 minor, 7 diminished. Now, in Nashville numbers, for example, you go into the studio and you've got a song to cut, and the singer comes in and they go, can you move that up a whole tone? We don't have to write a new chord chart, you just denote the key.
Got it.
So let's say it's a 1, 4, 5 in C, and we were playing it in C, and we've got 1, 4, the actual numbers, and 5. They are written on the page as opposed to the chords.
And so, for the benefit of everyone out there, that's kind of maybe not completely from 1, 4, 5, rock, blues, the most typical progression, right?
Yeah.
So in C, it would be, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so let's say it's this.
C.
F to G.
Okay. Is 1, 4, 5.
That's 1, 4, 5. And the singer says, well, I'd like it up a whole step. Can and you go, so the band just go, okay, we're in D now. 1, 4, 5 is still major chords because you know what they represent. The number represents a chord flavor and type. So 1, 4, 5 is major, 2, 3, 6 minor. All right. So now I'm going to do this in the key of D. And I don't know about you, but that actually evokes a different feeling to me. A lot of guys go, well, key doesn't make a difference. Key makes a lot of difference. Just in voicings, check this out. So. Makes me feel it differently. That would be a totally different song. Not that I couldn't play the other one like that, but it evoked something in me. And for me, as a writer, I want to be inspired. And if it inspires me, then I get the next section.
Yeah.
Talking of sections, for example, we've got a 1, 4, 5. Let's say that's the intro and the verse. How do we go to a chorus? We could just invert the chords, the progression, right? So let me do that a sec. Okay, but by just inverting those chords, I got a chorus section. So there are ways of actually using just three chords to write a whole song. Just have to be clever with it, know how to set those up, and maybe transition into it.
Yeah, and again, that's what they mean about three chords in the truth, or one of the interpretations. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we answered that Nashville number system, which is, you know, and we also kind of answered, you know, where do the chords come from, where do progressions come from,
Right.
and you cover that in the course, I think, very eloquently. Another question we have is, when I write songs, they get too technical and busy. Any advice on keeping it simple? So this sounds to me like a guitar player, right? Because that's what we do as guitar players. We complicate everything. We play too many notes. We want the fancy chords. So how can we, guitar players, kind of start to hone our song craft? Where do we start?
Okay, so let's say, for example, you are someone that's very, you know, has a ton of chords under their fingers, tons of voicings, lots of options, right? If you've got that, understand that those options and those upper voicings might actually be the melody that's going to be sung. So then how do you then remove that from the process? So, for example, let's say I'm doing this. Now, I like this aspect of it because it's understated and lower in the chords. But if I was playing that and the singer's got to match that, that's kind of tough. Would you agree? You know, because that's a major you know, it's a major 7 thing in that key, because we're in the key of G, but I'm playing on the C chord. So let me play that a little bit. So this might be my intro. So then verse. Refrain. Na, 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 na. So what I do is I can take the same elements but simplify the elements. You may not even do that little move, but I think what you do is you can either mute the guitar and pull it back a little bit, but upper voicings tend to get in the way of the melody. And a lot of jazz musicians will say that, won't they? Or the bass player will say, you know, get out of my frequency range to the keyboard player, and the keyboard player says, you get out of my right, and it's finding your pocket and what works. So understand that you could write a melody or write a chord passage that is complex, but understand that a lot of those notes can be used for the singer's benefit, and they might choose those. So take them out.
Right. Good advice. So the best, basically, how you're answering the question is, how do you simplify? You know, you simplify it. You know, don't be afraid of playing a C open position chord, and when you embellish it, do it delicately and stay out of the way of the melody. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll give you another example of that. Just recently, so been recording some of my original songs, and I did that with a live band, so tracking live. And the keyboard player said to me on one of the songs, what's that thing you're doing in the guitar there where you do this arpeggio up to, what's the voicing? And this comes back to the numbers thing a little bit. And I said, oh, it's a 1, 3, flat 7, 9, right, in the chord voicing. He didn't have to know he knew what the chord was. He just wanted to know my voicing from low to high. And he goes, yeah, got it. And he played it, right? But the other thing, I started then listening to the melody. Did it detract from the melody in the vocal? Was it getting in the way of the lead guitar solo stuff? So the other day we were putting backing vocals on my songs, and the backing vocalist was scatting where my slide guitar stuff was. And it was amazing, and I'd love to keep it all, but it was getting in the way. And it starts stepping on the toes of other elements. And what you have to understand as a songwriter is, all of those elements are important, whether it's groove, harmony, melody, everything. So as much as possible, do your job. You're not there to shine necessarily, you're there to contribute. And that's two different things.
Yeah, and that's a very hard thing for a guitar player to
Yeah.
comprehend, right?
Absolutely. We've all been there. We've been in the rehearsal where the guy's still noodling in breaks and all that stuff. A friend of mine mentioned that to me the other day and said, it's driving me crazy, I'm going to fire him. And then, and then you get the thing where on stage the guitar player's playing all the time and you just go, it's okay to do nothing. That's just as musical. And I always say, I know everyone that probably knows me goes, you're a very simple, straightforward guitar player. But hopefully I find the right pocket and the right sounds. And be a musician, not just a guitar player.
Well said. So, man, I want to get to the other course, too. There's so much we could talk about here.
Yeah.
Tommy, do you have the blueprint for the song project?
I do, yeah. I can pull it up.
Yeah. Would you just run down for the listening and viewing audience, the topics that Robbie covers? Can you do that?
Yeah.
Here, speak into this microphone right there.
This one right here. So, Robbie, you're starting the course out with a lot of sort of, defining the concepts, the kind of the sections of a song, rhythm, harmony, melody, the lyric, what the difference is between approaching an instrumental versus a song, right?
Yeah.
And then taking you through some of the kind of major scale and harmony things that people need to understand. Then we get into popular chord progressions, inverting chord progressions, reversing chord progressions, all these tools that people can use with the chords they already know, very possibly. And, then more of the song form, intro, verse, chorus, bridge, outro, talking about how to write the harmony to your melody, right? Writing the harmony for your song. And then rhythm and groove, such an important aspect of the song, like you mentioned, too. Yeah. So, and then really digging into melody, lyrics. I mean, this thing is very comprehensive. It's going to be a great course.
I think it's comprehensive, but it also seems very logical to me as a good, you could start from any aspect of the course. You could say, well, I always start with the melody. That's fine. I have to start somewhere to give you a course, so I did it from where I typically would and where a lot of guitar players probably would.
But you could start in the middle and work your way around.
You could.
So,
exactly.
I remember us, the initial concept or objective of this course, and I think, I think we're going to very nicely meet that, is, if you've never written a song before, go through this. We're not guaranteeing you're going to write a hit song. It may not make the radio. You never know. But you will write your first song. And that's what we love about this course, and we think you did, a phenomenal job on it. And
thank you.
No, you're not going to get away without sharing the hook. So we're going to ask you live, and you can't say no. Play the song.
How do I ever say no to you, Brad?
You never
have a way.
Not yet, anyway.
You have a way with words.
Play us the song.
Yeah.
And so what Robbie does is throughout the chorus, he not only talks about those elements that Tommy just mentioned, but illustrates the application of that element or that technique or that concept.
Yeah.
And at the end, basically, Robbie is writing a song to illustrate while you're writing your song. So it's not about learning Robbie's song. This is just the illustration, the picture worth 1,000 words. But it's a great song, so go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to do this without the groove, Tommy, so it's fine. I think it's more singer-songwriter that way, right? So anyway, and here's the other thing. Let me just set this up to a great thanks to Steve Hefker, who's the co-writer on this. And without his hook, there is no song, because that's where it starts, right? It starts with the idea. Anyway, so from that we crafted this. There's a half-drunk cup of coffee, your lipstick on the rim. There's still a dip in your side of the bed. There's a hint of your perfume still haunting every room. Funny, it's like you never left. I'm the O-N-E in lonely. I'm the one doing solitary time. I don't answer the door, don't pick up the phone. I just sit in the dark like nobody's home. It's just me and your memory. I'm the O-N-E in lonely. I lost 7 pounds without even trying. It's only 10 a.m. There's bourbon on my breath. I'm talking to myself, not making any sense. Me and the house are both a mess. I'm the O-N-E in lonely. I'm the one doing solitary time. I don't answer the door, don't pick up the phone. I just sit in the dark like nobody's home. Just me and your memory. I'm the O-N-E in lonely. Don't you think it's time? Put our differences aside. Try to save the love we stand to lose. Say we might could, baby, someday soon. Talk about giving us one more try. 'Cause I'm the O-N-E in lonely. I'm the one doing solitary time. I don't answer the door, don't pick up the phone. I just sit in the dark, praying you'd come on home. Just me and your memory. I'm the O-N-E and lonely.
That was great, man. That was really great.
Thank you.
That's actually the first time we haven't gotten to the end of the chorus, so we haven't heard that, in its entirety. It's a great song, man.
Thank you.
And a great way to illustrate all the principles and the concepts in the chorus. And I would say, and this might be a little gratuitous, but if you've ever dreamed of or hoped that you might be able to learn how to write a song, I think we've nailed it. I really think we have a great kind of step-by-step approach for learning the essentials of the craft, and it's fun, it's engaging. This should be out early part of next year, and we're calling it "Write Your First Song."
WRITE?
Yes. you know, Robbie's a very creative cat. You never.
Might be RIGHT,
It might
right?
be. Okay, listen, we have two more things that we really have to cover. I want to talk about chord moves and grooves,
Yeah.
which is in many ways a companion course to this one, but also a great standalone course. I think it's going to be very, very popular. And I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about the gear. We have a lot of people asking about what you use and, so chord moves and grooves. What's that about?
For me, a lot of the time, and this speaks into both sides, so beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I think what happens a lot of the time is we learn guitar in open position, open string chords, and we play them verbatim, right? There's a G, there's a C, there's this, that, and the other. And we forget sometimes that by lifting one finger, we get a major 7, or we get an add 9, or we get some nice variances in our chords. And there are moves that we can use to enhance not only our songwriting, our instrumentals. If you change the notes in the chords, what does that also do? It gives us other sweet notes. So as a melodic player, if I've added notes to my chord, it gave me resolution points, right? Gave me melodies for my songs. It's all those things. So what I say to guys is, look, you may not have even thought about this, but not only does it help you and inspire you to write songs or ideas, it makes you a really valuable player in a band. If, for example, I'll give you an example of that, right? So let's say, for example, you've got, an A chord. And this would be a bit more advanced than your beginner thing, but not that a beginner couldn't play this. They could, right? Just maybe take a bit more time. So if you've got an A chord like this, and I take off that C sharp note, I've got a B now. Add the C sharp, then suspend the chord. I've got a melody on top, haven't I? Just with one finger move, I'm getting music. This is not just a chord now, it's music. It's a musical passage. It's an intro, it's a verse, it's a chorus. One chord. And when you think in terms of the moves in and around that, this, by the way, this is not a chord vocabulary course.
Right.
This is a chord moves course, stuff you use. I want you to go, God, I'd use that. I'd use that in a song tomorrow. Right? And I think the idea is, guys, you may not have thought of this. You may have. But what about use it now? Because it's valid, right? So those kind of things. And as you saw, it was simple, tiny moves that made music. And I think it can be that simple or that complex, depending on your level. And what I've tried to do is make all of these examples extremely usable for anyone. And the beginner is going to spend a little bit more time. We've not bogged down the course at all with theory. What we've done is we've said, here are the moves, here's how you can approach this. Oh, and by the way, had you thought about reversing that progression like we do in the songwriting course? Mm-hmm. Had you thought about maybe adding that progression now to the other one that we did in the same key? So you're focused in this edition anyway on open position chords, right? It's all open position chords or open strings in the chords. So I do a couple of things where I move outside, but not much. Mm-hmm. But the element is that there are open strings in the chords, and yes, they're open position chords, because that's where the money lies. Mm-hmm. For most guys, the money lies here. The money lies there for a songwriter, often. For sure. Right? Yeah. And even if it doesn't, let's say, for example, you're playing more complex things. Here's something I learned as a performer. When I was trying to play more complex things as bar chords and complex moves, number one, it got in the way of the lyric and the melody. But when I was singing, you have to be able to make those moves. And when you're on the mic and engaging the audience, this becomes harder. When you do it in open position, you're in comfort zone. And you can make those changes and play and perform. There's a difference between playing and performing. When you perform, you engage the audience. When you play, you're just playing.
Yeah.
Those are the key things that I've learned with performing live and my songwriting. You probably noticed in my song performance, I emoted the song. I didn't just sing it. I don't know if you saw, my face probably was pulling all sorts of faces. Because I was emoting the song. And I think that's key. So what I'm saying in chord moves is, yes, you can play all these things, now make music with them. And let them breathe. You probably saw dynamic in the song as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Light and shades.
Yeah.
And it's very important.
Yeah, one of the things that we've noticed, over, all of the years that we've been doing this is there's kind of this pattern. Guitar players start off by learning open position chords. They call them cowboy chords or, beginner chords, right? And they can't wait to learn their bar chords, their inversions, their fancy extensions. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, right? But there's a point with seasoned guitar players. You see them, in performance when they rediscover, like the beauty of these open position chords, and they sometimes they play them without moves. But more often than not, they're lifting a finger, adding a finger, putting a little bit of flavor in it. If you look at the singer-songwriter, genre, it's all about that, or at least the vast majority of it is.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember us talking about, this course and thinking about how we can help, our students rediscover, all the music that resides inside those open position chords. And Robby is very deliberate about not getting, into the theory. Like you're playing, you lift a finger, you have an A sus2, and
Oh, yeah.
but you're not talking about that. You're basically saying, look, take your A chord, lift this finger, and listen to this beautiful sound.
Yeah.
And then the second part, if you could just talk a little bit about the second part too, which is you learn these moves and then you show them how to create grooves. And any of these grooves, you're free to steal them and write your own songs with them because they're really cool. Would you demonstrate one of those?
Yeah.
Maybe either, that A riff thing.
Yeah,
C
pull up the A riff thing, because I think...
A riff thing?
Because here's the other thing I want to get across to the guys watching, and I know we're going to market it this way in the course. This course is not just an acoustic guitar player's course. This is an everyone course. I might play an example on the acoustic. It's equally as valid on the electric, and we are going to put some electric stuff in the course.
Could you do this on both acoustic and... Okay.
Exactly. And what I'll do, here's what I'll try and do with this is make this one a tiny bit more percussive. It's the element of the instrument.
Yeah.
Maybe make the electric version electric-centric, if you like.
Okay,
Does that make
cool.
sense? Yeah, okay.
Very well said.
That eloquence is there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's alliteration or something like that.
Well, I went to Ireland and I kissed the Blarney Stone.
Yeah, did you really?
Yeah, and it's meant to bestow eloquence on you.
Well, there you go.
Is this A major for Robbie?
Yeah, the riff-based thing. If it's got tempo to it, it's the right one. There you go. And I put that little bit in there just because I was feeling it, right?
Sure.
But I go into that stuff in the course. I might go, guys, hey, you might even think about this, right? It might not be in the intro thing that I do, but I break it down and show you.
Yeah, what's
neat
cool
things,
is
you know.
almost with all of them, you say, look at take bits and pieces, you know, modify it at will. There's just so much music in that simple voicing, right?
Absolutely, and I think what happens too, that other little thing that I put in there that's not in my original thing, is the fact that an element of another chord move that I do in the course, you go, hey, I could do that and that and that.
Right.
And you could actually string 3 of the chord moves together,
Yeah.
and you got a song.
Yeah, it's great.
That's the power of this, and I say to guys all the time about anything that you have, get the mileage out of anything, whether it's a chord, a scale, anything. Last night, for example, I was at my workshop, and the guys are like, God, you just phrase so beautifully, and the notes. And I said, but it's not complex, is it? And they go, no, but I've got to learn to simplify. And I said, yeah, there's lots of magic in the pentatonic scale. You just got to find it. Right? It's not about learning new scales for exotic sounds. It's about applying what you know. And I think that's the key element. It's the same thing with the chord moves. Is there mileage, you know, from an A? That's just one shape moving it up the neck, you know. But those open strings. And then there's moves within the moves. So, you know, so it's great. And then, of course, the grooves change that. And I'll play the electric in a second. But what I also advocate in the course, there's tons of grooves in the course. Take this progression and move it onto a different groove. And see if it works, because it might actually feel better for you there. Might be slower, might be faster.
Yeah, we love that aspect. I mean, it's all kind of mix and match, you know, plug and play. It's really a construction, it's a groove construction kit in a way, you know?
Well, it is, but here's the other cool thing. I've given you these grooves. If you want to, jam over them. So you've got tons of stuff. Let's say your
true.
practice is, well, Robbie's given me this great chord progression, which I love. I'm going to learn to play it. He gave me the backing track, and now I can play my A major pentatonic over that. My practice session for this hour tonight was I learnt some rhythm chops, some groove chops, and some solo chops.
Nice.
Great practice hour, right?
Play some electric, man.
Yeah. Okay to unplug, Tommy?
Which one do you want?
The same track, so it gives you the example of the same thing, right? Is that what you wanted, Brad?
Yep.
Okay.
And then maybe keep the electric and give us another example, because
Sure.
you do use, you know, you're switching between acoustic and electric.
Yeah, absolutely.
To really drive the point home that, you know, all of these chord moves and grooves, even if you demonstrate it on acoustic, are also going to work on electric.
Absolutely. You know, that's the thing. And I know a lot of guys, for example, in touring bands, you may have a specific acoustic player because they're really great on the acoustic, right? Or they might be a utility player. But I always say to guitar players, you're a guitar player, it doesn't matter if it's acoustic or electric. Learn to be able to switch between the two, makes you more valuable. But often they can be adapted, or everything should be able to cross over for me. Obviously lead guitar stuff is not,
Right.
unless you're Monty Montgomery, right?
Right, that's true.
And what did Monty say? I said to him once, so why the acoustic guitar? He goes, it slowed me down.
That's
And you
right.
see how fast
That's
Monty
right.
is, right? It's crazy. But anyway, you should be able to cross these things over. Okay, so we'll do this same kind of thing, but
Okay.
for the electric.
Very cool. Interesting how, you know, when you shift from acoustic to electric or vice versa, it kind of inspires the groove in a different way, and you tweak it a little bit differently, take advantage of the instrumentation, I guess.
Absolutely, and one of the things, and we can pull the track up in a second, and I'll do something else with that. And here's the thing, that's one approach. What about if I play it with my fingers? What about if I, you know, let the chords sustain? So let me do a little bit of that, so you go, yeah, there's mileage in the groove part of it, or how you approach that, as opposed to just the chords.
Cool.
Right, so let's do that. So you get the idea. I can let the chords ring, I can, you know, sustain them, whatever. I can split the parts. I can split the parts, right? I could just hit a big old chordola on the A and let the acoustic guitar player play those parts.
Yeah.
And I'm just playing the accents. Actually, Tommy, do we have the track there with the acoustic on it? So let me approach that then. I'm winging this, by the way, guys. We'll see what happens.
Well, we're live. You're supposed to wing this, okay?
Tuning optional. So you see what I mean? It's like there's so many variations of either the rhythm or the placement, the pocket of where you place these things. Let me just tune up a second. So to me, it's once you've got the moves there, now get creative with it. Find a different pocket for the part. Because there's tons of them. I mean, we did this in Guitar Interactives, showing that there are multiple pockets for the guitar player. And that's going to make you valuable too, because if you're doubling a part, sometimes that's just redundant. But if you're finding a pocket with the part, it becomes valuable and it becomes musical. I think the key thing here is, for me, anything I do these days, I want to be musical, else it's just not worth doing. Technical and technique doesn't mean that much to me anymore. My technique is being musical. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Which, you know, is also a very sophisticated, I think, you know, approach to musicality, right? Like you spend, you know, God knows how many decades developing technique and chops and blazing, but, you know, that doesn't necessarily equate to music.
No.
You know?
One of the things that I mentioned in my workshop last night, I did a Line 6 workshop at Replay Guitar Exchange. And I said, one of the things that we've lost, I think, in music is, how did it make me feel? You know, it's like, okay, well, that was great, and it was technically proficient, and everything was on the grid line on my computer, and everything's so locked in. Tommy would attest to this probably. Everything is so locked into the grid these days. There's no movement and feel and dynamic, and you kind of go, everything's compressed to the max, right? So there's no lights and shades. And I always say to people, I don't want to hear the bass, I want to feel it. I don't necessarily want to know what the notes are. I just want to feel them. It's a resonance, isn't it? It's a feel.
Yes.
And so I said to the guys, so the gear I'm using, this is amp modeling, and I know there are a lot of diehards out there with tube amps that go, no, I'd never do that, man. And I go, what does my sound sound like to you? And they said, sounds like a studio rig live.
Yeah.
And I said, isn't that what we're trying to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when you go in the studio, you put your amp in, then they mic it up, they compress it, they put lots of great effects on it, and you get your studio sound. Well, I'm just bringing it with.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about gear. That's a kind of a perfect segue.
Okay.
So I'll tell a little story. So we were both at the NAMM show. You were a couple of aisles over and performing, and we were at our booth, right? And what we always do, you know, when we hear somebody playing is, you know, oh, they're playing a, you know, a whatever guitar through a whatever amp, and, you know, you try to, you know, pick up the tone.
Yeah.
And you did, you know, I mean, maybe 15, 20 minutes worth of music, and the guys, all of us, myself included, try to guess, and we were wrong. Okay, so we hopped over, and you were playing, I think, this guitar, and which.
I was actually playing the Revstar 720B, which is here. It's my main guitar.
And you had the Helix.
And Helix.
And what were you going through there?
Straight into the PA.
Okay, so and you have your own patches for the Helix. Would you just take us through that rig, please? Because the sound was spectacular, and it's something everybody was talking about, right?
Absolutely, and just it was funny to me, like sound check day. We obviously Line 6 is owned by Yamaha, so it's pretty much the same company.
Yeah.
But they have their own guys and the Yamaha guys. So all the Yamaha guys that go out and rep are great guitar players, and they're, you know, the players are just monstrously good. And I get up and I do my thing, and you know I do my thing, and it's just what it is, right? Mm-hmm. It's melody and everything else. And the guys came over and they went, how are you getting that sound? And I said, well, you're Line 6 guys, you know. But they said, no, but how are you getting? And I said, so here's my signal chain. And I showed them what I was doing. They said, man, that's just wonderful. And I wasn't using the power cabs. It was straight into the PA. So there's no trickery from that point. It was all coming from here. Mm-hmm. You know, it's flat response speakers. And for me, I create my sounds in much the same way as I create my music. It has to be musical and it has to make sense. I'm not here to show off, I'm here to present. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was like, is that the appropriate sound for that track? The guitar, the music, and everything else? And if it's not, it needs to be changed. Anyway, without getting away from amp modeling versus real amplification, it's become so good that if you put it in a track, you would never know. Mm. Even now these days, if it's ISO'd out, I mean, when I just played a second ago on this electric, to me that sounds like a great tube amp in the studio. Mm-hmm. But I can do that anywhere. I can have it in my hotel room on my headphones, and it's my rig anywhere.
Right.
It's my rig here.
Right.
And I said to the guys last night, listen, I do live gigs with this, with acoustic guitar, nylon string guitar. I was running vocals and tracks through it, all to house with 2 XLRs. And they were like, everything's coming through there? And I would fade out my loops and my endings and stuff. And they were like, oh my God. And I said, it's all in there.
Now, when you're saying, can you get a shot of that? Oh, yeah, show that. Talk about the Helix first.
Okay, so you can see that, can you?
We can see it now.
Okay, right. So basically, it's an all-in-one. If you want to consider this your rig in a 14-pound box on the floor, super adaptable, and it's all hyper-programmable. But the way I like to look at it is, it's my front-end pedals, overdrive, compression, tremolo, things I would put in the front of my amp. That's how I set the signal chain up. I select an amplifier. I don't choose different amps. I picked one that I liked, which is usually an AC 15 or 30, and all my patches use that. Then you can pick the speaker cabinets that you use, 4x12, 2x12, the speakers that are in them, the microphone you use on it. Do you
change your speaker?
No, not for my electric.
So you pretty much use the same amp, right? And then what speaker setup do you
Usually it's a
spec?
high watt 4x12.
Okay.
And then there's a 2x12 on the other side, which is
Okay.
either a blue, Ornico blue or an
Yeah.
Ornico silver.
So you don't jump around, change the amp, change the speaker. You use that bass and then tweak effects.
Yeah, here's what I said to the guys was, what I hear online a lot on the videos is the forum is a wonderful place to go on, the Line 6 forum on Facebook. However, what I see a lot is, hey, have you tried the new Placator amp? Have you tried the new Boogie this and this? And a lot of guys, they've got 100 different amps across 100 different patches,
Yeah.
all volume levels, all... It's not realistic. The reason people have maybe a problem with modeling and Helix or any of the modelers for that matter is that it's not realistic. And I go, no, because you wouldn't have a Boogie, a Cat
That's a
5
good
and everything
point,
on
yeah.
stage. You just wouldn't unless you're, Joe Bonamassa. And that's rare. He's got 4 or 5 amps. That's okay. But realistically, you would have 1 amp or 2 amps, and you would use that for gigs, sessions, everything else, right? Now, it's great for variation for sessions. I still just use that sound for sessions because it's my sound. And I get hired for my sound, not someone else's usually.
Right.
So my thing to the guys is pick the amp you love, pick the effects that you would always use. And what I do is I create a signal chain, then I copy and paste it to other patches. I change the delay time and how much for the tempo of that track. I might roll off a bit of drive if I want it cleaner. I might kick in the stomp overdrive. So what I do is I create my sound in a patch and copy it and use it for everything, which makes absolute sense to me because when I go somewhere, I'm not going, oh, my Boogie setting on that one is louder than that. I understand for
Wait,
demo.
you're saying you create one patch
And I
and then
copy
you
it.
shift it into pedal mode, the mode switch, and then
I can do
that
it.
becomes your stomp box, or do you use a different patch, literally a different patch for different
Yeah, a different
songs?
patch for a different song.
Okay.
But you could do it the other way and just tap tempo the delay. So you can have it in stomp box mode. So you
Got
can
it.
either run it in preset mode
Yeah.
or stomp box mode.
Right.
Super simple to do it. For me, Line 6 sent me this, Matt at Line 6 sent me this a couple of years ago. And the next day I sent him a video back, a demo video. And he went, that didn't take you long to dial in, did it? And I said, no, because I looked at it from the standpoint of what it is. It's pedals, effects, speakers, and an output.
Yeah.
And when you simplify it to those elements, create your signal chain and move on. I don't ever mess around with that stuff. And I said to the guys, look, here's what I did with this. This was funny yesterday. So I said to the guys, okay, here's a guitar sound, and probably easier on the other guitar, but it might work here too. Here's my Revstar, and on this pickup, it's super rock and roll, right? You got that really nice kind of rocking. But if I move it here, it becomes a bit bluesier. So if I'm doing, and I move it here, and I move it here, it became a blues sound using my pickups. So I say to him, you don't always have to change the sound here. You could do it here too.
Very cool.
You can roll off the tone control. I didn't do any of that. I just switched to different pickups. And for me, it was like, what do you think? And they said, well, it's just very versatile. It feels and sounds like a real amp. And the sound guy there last night, who's a brilliant sound guy, he said, the only thing that's missing is we couldn't crank your volume up because you had your mic running through it too, and it would have fed back. And that's often what people are missing from their modeler, is they're not putting the volume in there that gives it that low end bump or that push. And he said, but you've got your sound at any volume, 0.5 watt to 300 watts.
Nice.
It's just your sound. And that's where I think that happens. I mean, obviously, there are other products that are lowering the voltage, not voltage, the wattage of your amp and all that to give you that sound at that volume.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's as consistent as having one sound that changes volume.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the Helix.
Yeah.
Now, I've noticed, you usually travel with what, 2 of these guitars? What are they, and why do you use them?
Well,
And why do you switch between, the 2 of them? The pickups or?
pickups and the bodies on the Revstars, these are Yamaha Revstar guitars. It's the Revstar range of guitars.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been that old school rock and roll thing. I love P90s and Filtertrons and anything that has that kind of sound to them. I don't like super high output pickups. I like more vintage sounding stuff. For me, it lets your personality come through them, whereas the high gain stuff, it's all that and no personality. And when I started working with Yamaha, guys say to me all the time, you have your sound. You could be playing through that amp, that guitar, whatever, it's your sound. But what I was finding was I was struggling for that sound to truly come through with certain guitars I was using. And when I played the Revstars, number one, it's all mahogany back and sides and neck through body, so super high sustain. It's got a maple cap on it, which I love. You know, it's like a Les Paul, isn't it? It's mahogany maple top. The pickups I like, it's got jumbo frets on it, and for me, jumbo frets help me sustain the notes, help me bend notes, and you probably notice I hold notes longer than playing fast legato. So these guitars feel like manly guitars. They're sturdy, they're strong. They let me perform on it, and it doesn't feel like it's going to vary under my fingers. It's just going to be there for me. I travel with them a lot. Humidity, nothing seems to affect them. You know, I come from Hawaii to California to Nashville to Tampa to wherever. It's set up, I set it up 2 years ago, and it's the same. The neck hasn't moved, there's none of that. So for me, consistency, it's like Helix. If I show up at a venue, I know my sound's going to be there for that gig. Fantastic. I know that what I programmed, I get. When I arrive with my Revstars, I know what I'm arrive with, I get. There's no variation in that. So I like consistency because I tend to be consistent. Or try to be, you know.
Yeah.
There are variables, obviously. So I love that. And in the Revstar range, they gave us a lot of choices. Number one, a cool look, right? This is the 502T with the P90s. And
What do they go for?
I don't want to quote that because I don't want to mess that up, but I'm going to say in around the $600 range.
Jeez.
Yeah, and all solid woods with that construction and totally unique.
Nice.
What I like about it too is that if someone's saying to me, Robbie, you sound like Robbie, and I'm using what everyone else uses, I'm also helping stay outside of being Robbie. But these I feel are different enough that I could justify, number one, having them in my arsenal of stuff. But I think it sets me apart a little bit.
You know, I mean, we've been working together for many, many, many years. And I've seen you come in here, you know, those first few years with some very, very pricey guitars, you know. But you've been stuck on these now. You know, we all switch our guitars, you know, every couple of years or whatever. But it seems like you found your guitar.
Well, my main one is the 7. Can I pick that one up?
Yeah,
is that all right?
please.
Let me show you that because...
Can you pop the chord?
Actually, yeah, this one's fine. Yeah, thank you. It's nice to have an assistant. I usually have to set my own stuff up. Thank you, my friend. Let me take that just in case I need it. Yeah, this is a new color actually for Yamaha, beginning of this year. And that's the other thing. They constantly not upgrade, it's the same model, but new colors, and they, you know, give us some choices. And for me, this guitar, number one, the flame top's beautiful. This is called Japanese vintage denim, the color. It's the same thing. It's got locking tuners on it, jumbo frets, but Filtertron style pickups. So it's got somewhat of a sound, an open sound of single coils, but they're still humbuckers. They're super quiet. So they're quieter than those, because P90s tend to be pick up light noise and stuff. So I love this guitar, and typically a Bigsby takes away from the sustain of a guitar. It doesn't on these, because they're just, when you pick this up, it feels like a Les Paul. It's super heavy, sustains beautifully. And when I go to my workshops, my gigs, whatever I do, and I'm talking to people about the guitars, they say, seriously, that's your main guitar? And I said, yeah. I use it in the studio, I use it for everything. I use it on my record. Engineers say to me, I love the sound of that guitar. It just sounds so good. So
we'll be asked, what's the model number of that in case somebody wants to?
Okay, so this is the 720B, B being for the Bigsby, and that's the only one with the Filtertrons, and it's my favorite.
And that's, what's that price point?
I think the price point on this is $899.
Okay.
And again, all solid wood with a flame
Crazy.
top. It's, and a gig bag. So for me, you know, people go, well, you work for Yamaha. And I go, I work for Yamaha because I love Yamaha. I love the guys that work there. I love the product, and I like their philosophy. They are, as far as I'm concerned, ahead of the technical curve. You know, not only do they have incredible, the Transacoustic, for example, which I know we haven't got to talk about. Do we have time?
We're going to show them that for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To me, that is mind-blowing, right? Helix is part of the family now. So look at the technological pool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What about if you could put Helix technology in a guitar?
I'm telling you, I really think Yamaha is coming on in a big way, like
Big way.
kind of a new generation. You know what I mean? It's just the things that they've been doing lately.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think people miss too, and I hear this a lot. Oh, Yamaha was my first guitar. But what they think is that Yamaha don't do anything above that level grade of, and I give them a solid wood acoustic guitar that is priced 4 times cheaper than anything else, that's just as good, if not better, with all the technology and the mic modeling and and everything else. And they go, I had no idea they made guitars of this quality. And I said, you've got to go out and check them out, because
I mean, look, so many of us are stuck on, you know, our favorite brands, you know, and you know, and we love to buy custom guitars, and you know, it's just in our nature, right? But you know, they're on to something. You know, I really think they're going to emerge as a premium guitar maker, and it's crazy at that price point, not, you know, not to have one, right?
Well, I think last night, and everywhere I go with these, people are turned on. They go, and I'll say to them, does the guitar sound good? I'm not trying to sell you on it. Does it sound? Yeah, pick it up. It feels good too. And then it's your choice, right? It's always your choice.
Absolutely.
Same with Helix. But I had guys come up after the clinic. I had like 8 guys around me, and I'm showing them the signal chain and everything else. And one of the objections was, or not objections, was I didn't realize it had so much to offer. And I said, well, everything I did through it was through Helix tonight. And then I told them about you can store 8 set lists. So I have every set list, my nylon string set list, my acoustic set list, band. I've got a TrueFire set list in here, by the way, guys.
Really?
Yeah.
I want it.
I gave it to you.
Okay.
I sent
Did you?
Yeah, I sent it to you. So that's in there. So all of these things, guys, that you've got all of your sets anywhere you go in the world, any band you're playing with, whether it's a session or whatever. Plus, I can link this up to the editor. I can download all of my presets to the desktop as like a PDF file. It's not a PDF, but you know what I mean. And I can send that via email to China, and I'm going to do a gig in China and rent a Helix. I load in all my presets in that Helix, and everything I programmed is there. Don't even have to travel with it.
Yeah.
That to me is mind-blowing.
Play a little something on that.
On this?
You want a track or?
We'll just it sounds like there's an open tuning thing going on here. Ask me a question while I sort this out, and then
Sure. What's your favorite color? Would it be shades of green?
you know, I love orange. Is actually my favorite color.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever saw my Roger Giffin Strat.
No.
So it's Gretsch orange. That was made for me 30 years ago.
Really? You still have it?
Yeah, it got stolen out of my studio.
That's
like
one of the ones that got stolen.
4 years ago, and I got it back.
Oh, so is that the guy called you? Found
Found it, yeah.
Where'd they find it?
It was being advertised on reverb.com.
That's right.
And the guy contacted the guy, and he went online and saw me with it in pictures, like stuff I'd done.
Yeah.
And he said, "Man, you've got to have this back." He said,
Yeah.
"I don't care what you've got to have your guitar back." He got his money back too.
How did he get it back?
Well, he'd bought it from someone on eBay.
Yeah.
But the ironic thing was about it that the day I contacted him, he said, "I'm glad you contacted me today because tomorrow someone had bought it in Japan, and I was
Really?
going to ship it."
Wow.
He was selling it for a ridiculously stupid price. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's worth, to me, it's worth about $20,000.
Jeez.
But he was selling it for something like 3,000, which you know is crazy for a vintage Giffin.
Right.
But anyway, that's the other thing too. I mean, I tend to pick up the guitars I like, right? Color, shape.
Yep.
Guys are like that, right? We're visually stimulated.
Of course.
So Helix to me looks cool and
Yeah.
great, is easy to understand. Looks like a smartphone to me.
Uh-huh.
These guitars look cool
Yeah,
and
they
different and great.
They do.
So I gravitate towards them. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I want to be a unique artist. I believe I am a unique artist. And I say to guys, so just because so-and-so plays a Les Paul, why do you want to do that necessarily?
Yeah.
Be your own man.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Unique, we were put here as unique human beings. So I would say just be unique.
You're definitely unique, man. I'll tell you that. I can testify to that.
Good, bad, or ugly, it doesn't matter to me. I'm comfortable with it, you know what I mean?
All of the above.
Yeah.
How's that?
Good, bad, and
Just
ugly.
play something on that. Play some lead lines.
Some of them might
Some solo a little
some
bit.
noodle stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I was going to... So let's do this. I think the thing for me I like about these pickups is that there's a little bit of dirt on there, but I hear every note. Even with double stops, I'm hearing every note that's in.
Yeah.
The clarity is still there, but it's still got the dirt and the
Yeah, it
grind.
does.
So to me, this is the ultimate blues rock and R&B guitar. And I did, again, yesterday, I did this with the guys. I said to them, look, we've got this progression. But when I go here, it's softened out, didn't it? It's less.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So if I want to rip into a solo on the more gainy feel of it, I can. And I can do that with just the guitar. And these pickups, for me, translate my musicality. So part of my style is double stops, part of it is slide, part of it is... And it truly translates who I am as a musician. And I think a guitar is your conduit. It's not just a guitar. And it's not, I say to guys, well, yeah, it looks cool. I don't think it's the right sound. And I think what we do is we buy what it says on the headstock, not what it does for us musically. And I always say to guys, find a guitar that speaks your language. And this guitar truly does. I mean, I'm super happy. I didn't have to bring my personal one, but I don't like to be without it. So I did my clinic on that, even though there were Revstars there.
Yeah.
That proves to me and proves to other people it's important. If they didn't have a 720 there last night, I'd be like, that's not my sound.
Right.
So super important.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hey, let's show them the Trans,
Okay.
which, as you're getting that together, I'll tell you, we'd heard about this.
Thank
I
you.
remember Dennis talked about it at the NAMM show. Dennis is an awesome guy, too. Can we give him props?
Yeah. Dennis, number one, you're a super wonderful human being. You're funny. Down to earth and everything else, but you're just a beautiful, generous human being.
He really is. And he's incredible to work with. I mean, he's really, unique in this industry. I mean, I can't think of anybody that I'd rather work with in this industry than him. He's just, just a terrific guy all around.
Well, here's the other thing, and we probably don't. It's probably best that we don't plug this in. So, making a point, guys.
No,
I'm not plugging this in.
Yeah.
All right.
So here's the
do
thing. So we heard about it. You hear about all these new guitars and all that, and I picked this up. This one came in. These are new. I don't even think they're going to be stocked until January or something like that. And, didn't really have any idea what it was, to be honest with you, other than it was a new acoustic guitar. We had them set up for you for the shoot, so they weren't even in the house. We couldn't even play around with them. So I played it for the first time today. And you stepped over and you adjusted the dials on top, which at first blush looked like, the typical volume, treble, bass kind of controls. And boom, reverb, chorus, built it. It's like, I don't even understand how it works, okay? But it's very playable. It sounds great. And it's got this very cool technology. And what do these go for? That's
I think this is about $600. This is, the mahogany body, back and sides, neck, with the spruce top on it. And this is called the FGTA. So FG Folk Grand, I believe. And then TA is Transacoustic. And there is another body shape to this, a smaller body shape with the mahogany, back and sides and spruce top. And then you've got a rosewood, solid rosewood back and sides with a Sitka spruce top.
So just show everybody the cool technology that's built into it.
So this is totally acoustic, guys. So right now we are on just acoustic sound, and it's totally dry. The technology is not turned on. All right. So.
Now, what does it have inside to make it do that?
It's called an actuator, and you probably can't see it, but if you went inside the sound hole, it's a device that's on the back of the guitar. So the back of the guitar is resonating or activating that device, and it's creating the reverb, and then it's obviously acoustically resonating around the chamber of the guitar and out of the sound
So
hole.
there's no amp inside, right?
No.
It's like an organic.
It is an organic way of doing it, obviously tied to a digital, you've got the preamp and everything
Right.
here. You've got to amplify it if
Yeah.
you want to.
Right.
So you've got all of that.
So if you plug it in, you'll get that tone through.
And we should probably do that. So
Right.
you're getting all of those effects plugged in or acoustic.
Yeah.
So now let me add some chorus to it. So
Okay,
that was
cool.
just the reverb. And just to back up a little bit, that was hall reverb, not very much of it. We have more of that. It's not like you have to have just on-off. You have sweepable amounts, and there's also a room reverb. So if you want a shorter, smaller room, you
Right.
can. And you can dial it into wherever you want it to be. And then, of course, we've got chorus here, which could be mellow to... So I'm going to just set it kind of in the middle.
So do you put a battery in?
Yes, so it's got a battery in it. I think the life of it all on is about 8-9 hours. Now here's the cool thing though, if you don't remember to turn it off, it will cut itself out. So it
Nice.
auto shuts down. Now you hear the chorus now?
Yeah.
Right, so.
Crazy. This is crazy.
And for single notes, for that chord, it's kind of like a 12 string. And here's the thing, like, I'm playing it, and playing it feels like a 12 string. When you've got the double notes together, it's got a sponginess to it. It feels like that when you play it with the chorus on. I don't know how else to explain that, but that's what it feels like. It feels like a 12 string. It's resonating like a 12 string. Every time I show this to people, because they don't know, I mean, if you don't know how to turn it on, people don't know. They are shocked. You did it this morning. I watched your face, and you were like,
exactly. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I looked to see if somebody had plugged it in all of a sudden, and
yeah.
and yet the sound was coming out of the F-phone. It's nuts.
It's crazy, yeah. It's fantastic.
There's a product we like very much, a Tonewood. I think they're called Tonewood amps, and it's a device. You have to put something inside, and then you attach a Tonewood. And, and it's an awesome product, but it's sort of kind of bulky, We have it on a couple of Martins here. There's no bulk to that. It's invisible, right?
Well, the thing is, with the Tonewood, you've got to take it off to put it in your guitar case.
Yeah.
Right? So if you go anywhere, this is ultimately portable, isn't it? You
Yeah,
just go
it really
anywhere
is.
with it. The other bonus, I think, for a singer-songwriter or anyone who performs live, let's say you go to an open mic night or a writer's round. Typically, it's plug and play. You're on and off the stage quick. The sound man is not going to be going,
Right.
you need some of this.
Right.
So you turn on your reverb
Yeah, very cool.
and your chorus, and you get what you want with you're in control, and you get all the ambience that you want. The other thing that happens at writers' notes is you often sit in with other people, and you might be playing lead lines. It was super nice to be able to add a bit more,
Yeah.
juice to it.
Yeah, juice.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's killer.
It's lovely.
Yeah,
So
it is.
I haven't said that word for a while. Lovely.
No, you haven't. But we have that on videotape maybe 1,000 times over the years. So listen, we're really have run over. Well worth it. Plug in and play something. Play us out.
Okay.
And I really want to thank you, man, for taking this break from your session. It only means you're going to be working a little bit later tonight than normal, but really appreciate it. You shared some very valuable information, and want to thank everybody for tuning in. And we will see you next time.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
stage is yours.
Oh, thank you. And thanks, guys, for tuning in, and thanks for following me and all the other guys on TrueFire. Again, we can't do it without you. What a wonderful resource. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going strong. And, yeah, be creative, you know. We've given you the tools. So I'm going to do a little bit of a song. This is called Rain Down on Me. So it's going to be on my new record, so... It's been a long, hot, dusty summer. Can't recall when I last heard thunder roll. But there's a cool, deep river running in your eyes. Renews my faith, I'm baptized. You're the storm that soothes my soul. Baby, rain down on me. Baby, rain down, quench my thirst and rock me gently. Part the clouds and soak my skin. I wanna drown, drown in your love again. Baby, rain down. I'm the man who wandered in the desert. The woman at the well is who you are. There's a sacred passion in your kiss, like holy water to my lips, lifting up my empty heart. Baby, rain down on me. Baby, rain down, quench my thirst and rock me gently. Part the clouds and soak my skin. I wanna drown, drown in your love again. Baby, rain down, yeah, down on me. Baby, rain down. Baby, rain down on me. Baby, rain down, quench my thirst and rock me gently. Part the clouds and soak my skin. I wanna drown, drown in your love again. Baby, rain down, get down on me. Baby, rain down.